Here to talk about that is the general manager of Greenville Utilities, our friend Tony Cannon, who has a meeting at 9 o'clock in his office. So we're on the phone this morning. Good morning, Tony. How are you?
I'm great, Henry. How are you?
You were on the show a few weeks ago, and you said that you were optimistic that they'd get a deal on this. Looks like the deal is done, but now it has to go through several different states' regulatory process, right? So the government gets a say-so in whether this is going to go through or not.
Yeah, they also have a say-so in how the deal will ultimately look at the end.
Yeah.
You're correct that it does have to go through the South Carolina and North Carolina utility commissions, but it also has to be approved at the federal level through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
All right. Am I right about this? Greenville is the largest city involved in this deal?
Yes, we're the largest participant in the Eastern Municipal Power Agency.
All right, which is that the same thing as Electricities?
Electricities is actually the trade organization. It's the umbrella organization that manages both the Eastern Power Agency and the Power Agency out in the western part of the state.
All right, so the essence of this is that, these communities came together years and years and years ago to bundle together to try to buy energy together, and they ended up owing money on these nuclear plants, particularly the Sharon Harris plant in Apex. And am I right about this? It looked like a good deal at the time, but it became less of a good deal. In fact, it became a bad deal after the 3 Mile Island disaster up in Pennsylvania, and then the government came in and put extra safety regulations in that ran the debt on these nuclear plants through the roof. Is that pretty accurate?
That's pretty accurate. It was the perfect storm, actually. When this took place back in the late 70s, we were in the midst of construction when 3 Mile Island happened, and we were supposed to build 4 reactors for about $1 billion with the new safety requirements. It slowed construction down, and we ended up spending about $4 billion on one unit instead. And all the while, interest rates, you may recall, back in the late 70s, early 80s, were around 12%.
Oh, yeah, right.
Everything kind of came together there.
Jimmy Carter days. long lines at the gas station at 12%. I think the first I paid 9.5% mortgage rate on my first home. Hard to believe these days, isn't it?
It is, but that happened, and that drove the cost of these power plants through the roof. And when we went into it, like you said, it was a good deal. We were facing double-digit increases year after year from what was then VEPCO, is now Dominion, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And we had to do something to stabilize our supply and have more price predictability. It was predicted to be much lower than what it was, but this is an opportunity for us to get out from under that burden.
Well, that the question that I've got to ask and that everybody wants to hear you answer is, how much is this going to lower my utility bill? But let's start with things like this. What percentage of our utility bill in Greenville, when I get my bill each month, what percentage of that is going toward debt reduction on these power plants?
It's around 25 to 30%.
Right.
And it varies from month to month. We have something called a load factor that plays in, and that's the amount of energy that we actually consume versus what our highest demand is. And we've done a really good job managing that over the years. Our customers participate in our Beat the Peak program, and we have various load management programs that helps us keep a very high load factor. And that's actually kept our cost lower than some of the other members in the Eastern Agency, but still high.
So if 25-30% of our utility bills going toward debt service on these power facilities, you would think, well, certainly my power bill is going to go down, but you've got to buy power now that you don't own that anymore. If Electricities is not going to own this, the municipal power group is not going to own these power plants anymore. You've got to buy electricity, right? So is that the question mark factor in this deal that keeps you from being able to say if there's going to be a reduction in utility bills?
No, that's certainly a piece of the puzzle that has to be determined, but that's not really the biggest question right now. Is will the regulatory agencies approve the deal as it has been negotiated between the agency and Duke? And if they do, then we're going to see a very significant savings in our wholesale power cost, which will translate into savings on the retail side. But I would expect that that's going to be we've got a long road ahead of us. We've got 12 to 18 months worth of dealing with regulatory agencies, and then we have to negotiate the deal on the outstanding debt. I heard you and Terry Boardman talking earlier this morning. We're going to have about $480 million in outstanding debt when this deal is done, and that's the bondholders. It's not some faceless, nameless organization or institution somewhere. That's people like me and you who go out and buy these bonds.
Right.
And we have an obligation to pay that back.
Right.
And it's an obligation that we take seriously, but we have to determine now how's that $480 million going to be divided up between the 32 members of the power agency. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be some pretty tough negotiating coming up over the next few months.
So that deal has not been struck. So the remaining debt, the $480 million to bondholders, is going to be divvied out. Now, how do you do that? Do you do it by number of customers, or how do you do it?
There's a number of ways to look at it, and that's what we've got to decide. The thing that we have to remember is that we need to strike a deal between the 32 members that is a winner for everybody.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, then likely the deal's not going to happen. So we're motivated to get this done. I think I was on your show back in maybe January, February, when we first started talking about this. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it's taken much longer to get these first contracts on power supply negotiated than we thought it would. Than they thought it would. I thought it would take a long time, but I'm very intuitive that way. But nonetheless, we've got that done now, and now we're working against the clock because the agreements themselves say that we have to close the deal by the end of 2016. We don't want it to take that long. We're shooting for mid-2015 to get the deal closed.
Right.
So we've got a clock to work against. We've got to get serious about these negotiations with our 31 partners in the agency, and we've got to come up with a winning solution.
People are already predicting that their utility bills are going to go down. There's a couple of things out there today. There's a quote this morning on GreenvilleHeadlines.com. People want to go read it from Mayor Steve Tripp from Ayden, who is basically saying, we've been for years, we've been compared to other surrounding communities, and we've tried to explain that the debt that the town agreed to pay in exchange for ownership in the power generating plants impacts the rates at the lower level. News Observer saying people's power bill is going to go down. Editorial in this morning's Daily Reflector kind of saying, you and others should go ahead and tell us now, is our power bill going to go down, to let us know that this is a good deal for the citizens and the owner of the utility company, which is the citizens of Greenville. How do you respond to that?
Typically, I would not respond to that. You got to be real careful when you start putting things out there because you set the bar.
Yeah.
And once that bar's set, that's everyone's expectations, and they're either happy with it or they're mad at you for it.
Right.
And it's just too early to say what that number is. I will tell you this: I have had two goals. My team has had two goals. Our board has had two goals, and that is to become price competitive with Duke. You also hit a very good point earlier this morning when you said that the more competitive we are with our electricity prices, the more competitive we can be on the economic development front.
Yeah.
No truer words could be spoken. That is exactly right.
Yeah.
That was a goal.
Yeah.
One goal was to get our prices competitive on the retail level for residential, commercial, and industrial customers.
So you're going to stop short of predicting lower utility bills in Greenville, but is it fair to say that you would not have entered into this or voted for it or tried to make this happen, because I know you've been a big part of this, unless you thought there was a chance that people are going to get a break on the utility bills?
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That's what we're wanting. Like I said, our first goal is to get prices down, get them competitive. Second goal is to relieve ourselves of an unknown liability when it comes to decommissioning a nuclear power plant.
Right. There's Tony, you know this better than anybody. There's a natural skepticism about dealing with a power company. People think that power companies, are unfair to them, and they, why are my utility rates so high, et cetera. Should people take a look at this deal today and say, hey, here's something that they're doing for me instead of to me?
Well, I would like for them to do that. Reality is that they're not going to. I mean, you can read some of the blogs, and people are skeptical,
Yeah.
and with good reason. You know, there's been things that have happened over time, not just with your power company, but with other. You know, look at the federal government. Look at some of the things going on there. Look at things that have happened elsewhere. It's always good. A little healthy skepticism is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But we're working hard to make this a good deal for our customers, and you know, in the end, the proof will be in the pudding, and hopefully, we're going to be announcing good news down the road.
But you think it could be as long as 18 months?
We're hoping that it'll be more in the 12 to 15 month range, but
Okay.
it could be as long as 18 months.
Right. All right, Tony. Well, congratulations on getting to this point and getting the deal
Henry.
done with Duke Power Progress, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that this turns out to be a good deal for everybody.
Let's hope so. That's
Okay.
what we're working for.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Good talking to you.